men off of Craigslist. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Story time about how I found out my husband was hooking up with men off of Craigslist. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It's on Instagram. My husband and I have been married for 5 years. This man is the most prudish person I have ever met in my entire life. He never curses. He does not drink. Basically, he's never done anything naughty in his life. When we met, he was the perfect candidate for me. My parents are very religious and very strict. When they saw the way my husband was, basically super uptight, never wanting to do anything fun, they insisted that I marry him. So basically, this is all my parents' fault. To be honest with you guys, I never really was super attracted to him, but I knew that he would be a good provider. He's pretty high up in the company he works for, and he makes north of $300,000 per year. But I do own 2 of my own businesses, so it's not like I need him to survive. But my parents insisted on me marrying somebody who was already well off. And of course, one of my dreams is to become a mother, so I need a man who's going to be able to provide for me and my kids, especially when I'm pregnant. So we ended up getting married. Was there passion and chemistry? Not so much. But we did have a good time, and he would make me laugh. We essentially became really good friends. Up until I found some stuff on his laptop. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I found out my husband was hooking up with men off of Craigslist. Disclaimer, is not my story time. It's me on Instagram. One day while I was working from home, I needed to get on his laptop to check our cameras. I just gotten a new set of security cameras for our house. I needed to make sure that they were all working. I opened his laptop, typed in the password, and it was wrong. It always had the same password for the past 5 years. I didn't bother texting him. Instead, I tried to guess. And because I know this man so well, I guessed it in the first try. But as soon as I log in, there's about 5 Craigslist windows open, all with similar titles. Male looking for male. Male interested in male company. This literally shook me to my core. You're telling me that I'm married to a gay man and that he's hooking up with men off of Craigslist? That's when I went ahead and checked his email, only to find that he had been sending pictures and other things to these men. Not only that, but he had met with 2 of them. I instantly printed out all the evidence. Like I said in part 1, I'm not particularly attracted to my husband. I never have been. I really only married him because my parents pressured me into it. Here's what I did. Instead of just asking for a divorce, wanted to humiliate him. To make him pay. After printing everything out, I sent it to his job. And I sent it to his parents and my parents. Part 3 is up. After I sent videos of my own husband hooking up with other men to his job, my parents, and his parents. At this point, I had been married to a man that I wasn't attracted to for 5 years, only to find out that he was hooking up with other men. Off of Craigslist. Remember I said in part 1 how prudish my husband was? He always made himself seem like he was the perfect man, like he had never done anything bad in his life. But let me tell you, some of the things I read in those emails, and the pictures, and the video, disgusting. No wonder he put off having kids for so long, and no wonder he made me get on the pill, because he never had the intention of having kids. When everyone received their packages, my husband called me super upset. He said that he had only done it for about a week, and that it was just him experimenting. And he told me that his job put him on suspension. My parents, of course, stopped speaking to him. My mother-in-law calls me on the phone and tells me that she had always known that he was gay. And apparently, they insisted on him not marrying me. But he was set on having the perfect wife. The perfect life. We're obviously getting a divorce now, and I'm getting all his money. Or at least I'm gonna try it. He's already claiming that I'm obsessed with him, so he wants to get a restraining order. I need to make him suffer even more. How should I do this?
Story time of how I caught my ex-boyfriend cheating on me. Y'all better be ready because this one is good. So I started dating this guy when I was 16, turning 17. We were friends first, and I even knew his friends and I knew his family. And he's actually asked me out once before, but I said no because he was a player. And so by the time I turned 16, I said yes to dating him. So things were really great at first. I was really into him and we'd go on so many dates and he was super sweet. And there were definitely signs, but I totally missed them. And I'm just not the type of girl to like go through a guy's phone. I noticed he was super active on Snapchat, which is never good. One day he posted a Insta picture and I looked at the comments and there was a girl in the comments, which is fine. Girls can definitely comment. I am not a jealous person, but she had left a comment that said, "You're so hot," with a bunch of emojis. And these emojis were all hard eyes, guys. Go to part 2 to see me blend this out and to hear the rest of the story. Part 2 of how I caught my ex-boyfriend cheating on me. Okay, so this girl was commenting on his pictures with heart emojis and saying, "You're so hot," etc., etc. So I went to her page and I looked, and she's from Kansas. If you guys didn't already know, I'm from New Jersey, so Kansas is very far away. So I basically messaged this girl and I was like, "Hey, can you not comment on my boyfriend's pictures?" So she replies and she's like, "No, that's my boyfriend." So I'm like, "Girl, what?" So of course I messaged my boyfriend and I'm like, "What the heck is this?" So makeup setting spray before I powder. So I asked him about it, right? And he's like, "Oh no, that girl is crazy. She lives by my grandparents' house and she's just obsessed with me." His grandparents actually do live in Kansas, so I just believed him. So now fast forward, it's been like maybe 5 or 6 months of dating, and things things are just really weird. This one particular week, he was barely talking to me, so I felt really nervous. So this one particular night, he was barely answering me, so I called up his best friend. I was like, hey, do you know where my boyfriend is? So his friend is like, do you want me to call him and I'll keep you on the line? I obviously said yes, and mind you, his friend wasn't really the best. He definitely did like me. So his friend asks him, hey bro, where are you at? So my ex says, I'm at the park with an amiga. That was literally all I needed to hear because I just hung up the phone, and then all of a sudden I found myself running to my car. So my dad was washing his car and he saw me and he was like, where are you going? And I told him, hey, I think my ex is cheating on me. I'm gonna go find him. My dad is like, okay, sounds good. I will drive us there. So we're driving around the park and we finally find him, and he's in his car and the car's foggy. So I ran up to his car and him and this girl were just putting their clothes on. I knocked on the window and he literally rolled it down and said, how'd you find me here? So obviously I'm yelling at him. My dad gets out of the car and he's like, never talk to my daughter ever again. And the girl he was cheating on me with was younger than me. She was from my school and she knew we were dating because she was at all of my prom pictures. So obviously I was not gonna let my ex get away with this, so I called up his dad and I was like, do you know where your son has been the last few days? But it's okay because he did me a favor because now I'm with the most amazing guy ever.
This year, a couple of friends and I started planning our Friendsgiving dinner a couple of months in advance. We've always had a pretty tight friend group, but we decided to invite a couple of our new acquaintances from class. I say acquaintances because although we are friends, I really don't know them personally very well at all. One of the acquaintances, we'll call her Susan, always seemed really quiet towards me, but I thought she was just kind of shy, and she was closer with some of our other friends. I really didn't think anything of it, and honestly, I was excited for the chance to have dinner with her and actually get to talk to her a little bit more. A couple of days before we were supposed to have our dinner, one of my friends made a sign-up sheet and had us all sign up to bring certain things. I went to the grocery store and got everything I needed, and I was planning on making my dish for Friendsgiving the day before. That is, until I got a text from one of my best friends telling me that Friendsgiving had been canceled. I was super surprised by this because, like I said, we had been planning it for months, and one of my other friend's boyfriends had literally driven hours to make sure he could come to our Friendsgiving. I ended up texting somebody else that we had invited and asking them if they knew that it had been canceled. Instead of beating around the bush, she told me that Friendsgiving had not been canceled, but that I was strictly uninvited for what I did to Susan. Keep in mind that Susan was close with some of my other friends, but I personally didn't know her very well at all, so I was extremely surprised by this. I told her that I had no idea what she was talking about, and that I was sure whatever happened had to have been a misunderstanding. That's when she sent me a screenshot of her and Susan's text messages that contained a rather graphic picture of a dead cat in the middle of the road. Still confused, I asked what that had to do with me. That's when she explained that Susan had told everyone in the group that I ran over her cat outside of her apartment a couple of days ago and didn't say anything about it. Not only did I have no knowledge of where Susan lived, I had never hit an animal with my car as it was brand new, and I most definitely would have noticed if that happened. It became clear to me that Susan had probably mistaken someone else's car for mine, and I decided to show up to Friendsgiving anyway. When I got there, everyone was shooting me dirty looks, and when I tried to bring up the topic to Susan, she immediately burst into tears, and everybody shooed me out the door so that I wouldn't upset her any further. I honestly thought that the way everyone was handling the situation was extremely immature. Then I realized that Susan was probably curating these horrific stories in order to make my friends choose her over me. I ended up being able to convince my friends that it was not me that ran over Susan's cat, but most of them still agreed that it was very insensitive for me to show up at Friendsgiving and I should have just given it time to blow over. I think the entire situation was blown completely out of proportion, and that Susan should apologize for saying those things without having any reason to.
Story time.